Good afternoon, everybody. I have the pleasure of introducing the lovely Melissa JANTJIES, his names, this afternoon. Melissa is going to talk to us about advanced analytics and artificial intelligence. That's her role at SAS South Africa. So data is all around us, but do we really know how to analyze it? So Melissa's going to describe her role at SAS and explain some of the skills that she has acquired along the way. And this morning I spoke briefly in the session about the skills and having all the data and not knowing what to do with it. I mean, it's meaningless if we know how to use it. So Melissa, we look forward to your presentation and sharing with us a little bit more about how we do these things. So
thank you so much for that introduction. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So as mentioned, I'm Melissa JANTJIES. I'm a business solutions manager at SAS, specializing in analytics and artificial intelligence. Today I'm going to share about data analytics and artificial intelligence, but I myself am a young professional, so I'm going to share my career journey first before I get into that. And so I'll start off with that immediately. So my academic background is in economics. I studied economics, and as part of my studies, I came across statistics as an elective. The minute I started doing stats, I absolutely loved it, and I knew that I wanted to pursue a career in statistics. As part of my statistics course, I was introduced to SAS software. I did some basic coding at university, but I knew I wanted to pursue this a bit further. When I graduated university, I applied for an internship program at SAS. I got accepted. And as part of my internship program, I was able to understand and learn more about analytics in general. But I was also able to learn about programming more, and as part of the internship, we were taught advanced programming within SAS, but we also learned about other languages. Halfway through my internship program, I had an opportunity to stay with SAS permanently. So I grabbed it with both hands and I joined the customer advisory team. I was part of the Global Customer Advisory Academy. And as part of the academy, we went to the States to our head office, where we spent 6 months learning about the SAS platform and then other emerging and trending technologies. So we learned about things around AI, we learned about Internet of Things, cloud computing, etc. When I returned from the academy, I joined the South African team permanently, and I've been a part of this team for just over 4 years. I now work for the wider Middle East and Africa team as part of the AI and analytics team. And basically what our jobs is we go to customers across various industries. We help them find applications for AI and analytics within the organization that can help solve any burning business problems or help make things more efficient for them. Okay, so that's just an overview of my career path. I've also added my LinkedIn, so please feel free to add me if you have any questions that we might not get to, or if you want to have any discussions about the field, feel free to message me and add me on LinkedIn as well. Okay, so the first question I'm gonna get to is, what is AI? So this is a question that I ask people often, and I get a variety of different answers. So some people might say they don't know, which fair enough. But then I get answers like Alexa or Siri is AI. I also often get answers like the Terminator or the Matrix, like it's something super scary that's going to take over the world. There are a variety of different answers, but they have one thing in common, and that is that people think that AI is something that's out there. They think it's some sort of science fiction that is still being researched, and it's only used on very limited use cases or applications. A broad definition of AI is the ability for a computer or a machine to perform a task that a human can do. It doesn't have to be this super Hollywood inspired self aware robot. It can do just one simple thing, not necessarily everything that humans can do. AI is also not a concept that is new. It's something that's been around for ages now. AI has been around since the 50s. It's a term that was coined in the 50s. We saw our first application of chatbots being built in the 60s. So it's something that's been around for a while, and it's something that is constantly being revised and improved. We also have lots of different applications and forms of AI all around us. Just to name a few, for example, if you pick up your phone right now and you open it up, an AI is going to do things like recognize your face and say whether to allow you into the phone or not. If you open up your favorite social media app, AIs are running in the background and deciding what content it is that you are seeing and what it's being hidden from you. If we look at Netflix, for example, Netflix is running on recommendation AIs to provide content that we are more likely to watch. If you go on your Netflix, you'll always see a little probability score at the bottom. That's a model running to say that you are 90% likely to be interested in the show. And that's just a few of it. In our natural language AIs, we see that things like autocorrect will correct our spelling if it's wrong. Same with emails. Those are all natural language AIs in the background that are helping us along the way. The ads that seem to follow you across your social media and your web browsers, those aren't there by accident. They are driven by insights that are model driven based off of your search history or your engagement on different websites. So they are personalized marketing to you. When you look at your Google search, if you type in anything in Google, it comes up with a list of results. Those aren't the results those results won't be the same for every person. It will be dependent on your browsing information, your browsing history, as well as your location. So again, AI is all around us and it's constantly making small impacts in our lives, like keeping us engaged on social media apps a little bit longer, or giving us the convenience of showing us products that we might be interested in or that we are more likely to purchase. Um, Even doing simple things like helping give us navigation to get from point A to B with minimal amount of traffic. That's all AI happening in the background. So you've been interacting with AI on a daily basis. These small conveniences are really great, but AI also has a bigger impact on our lives and a much more lasting one as well. So this comes through in how businesses use AI. When you think about it, when you apply for your first car or home loan, what the bank is doing in the background is they're running machine learning algorithms to determine whether your application will be successful or not, whether you'll get that car. They're also running models to determine at what rate, interest rate you're going to get it, and what the term is going to be. Once you have that car, the insurance company is running a model to determine what premium of insurance you're going to pay. How likely are you to crash that car? So again, it's in business applications and it's in our personal lives. In the current state with the pandemic, AI has also been used vastly to help discover new drugs and to diagnose diseases. So we see a lot of applications in the medical field of AI around computer vision, because often AI is able to pick up small details that the human eye might miss. So it does have a huge impact on our lives as well. If we look at market trends, there are lots of forecasts out there that show that the investment in AI is going to double over the next 4 years. You take that increased investment and you couple it with the ability to have more computing power available. There's new innovative algorithms coming out all the time. So it's a really exciting time to be in the data science and AI space for sure. It's a very multifaceted industry, so there's lots of different moving parts all the time. Okay, it's not just an algorithm that you need to learn. There are different fundamental building blocks that come together with the AI, and I'm going to touch on that next. But at the foundation of it is data. We can't execute any AI or any reports, any models, if we don't have our data in the right state. Every analytics professional or AI professional needs to have some sort of data management skill. You need to have the ability to do some sort of basic data transformations so that you can get your data ready and in a state of modeling. So the first step is data for sure. Getting all your data integrated into a single place and then applying various transformations to get that data good to go for your reports or your models. In my professional career, I've never received a data set that was ready to go, not once. Every time I had to do some sort of filtering, joins, or changes. As a modeler, there's other things that you need to consider, like you need to figure out if there's any bias in the data, and you need to eliminate the bias or account for the bias within your model. You can just think of it as if you put garbage into a model or into a report, you're most likely going to get that out. Same like if you would put biased data into your algorithm, then your machine learning algorithm is going to be biased. So data is the foundation, and it's an extremely important step as part of the modeling process. Next, and equally as important, is visualization as well. So once our data is ready, we can move on to the step. What visualization does is it helps you determine the relationships between different variables in your data. It helps you do things like detect patterns in your data that can help you build better models ultimately. More importantly, I think there's a soft skill element that builds on top of visualization. When we are building models, we tend to be very technical, but we need to be able to tell the story to non-technical users. Visualization is a great tool to help do this. So you can think of it as a way for you to communicate your insights from your model. I think it's a really important art, being able to take a technical model and visualize it so that you can communicate it and tell it within a story, explain what it is that you are doing, what the impact of it is on the organization. It's an extremely important step. And often I find that it is the decider between whether an AI project is going to be funded or not. So it's an important skill for any analytics professional to have. Okay, you can think of it as a delivery tool. Then finally, and the fun part that we all enjoy, is the modeling piece. So there's lots of different algorithms and approaches to modeling, and it's all dependent on what you want your application to be or what the use case is. But we find that the most common one used in industry is machine learning algorithms. And basically what machine learning algorithms do is they receive some sort of data or input, and then they use statistics to provide an output. Machine learning algorithms are really great at doing things like identifying patterns in really large amounts of data. And this is something that we as humans often struggle with. Another modeling approach is natural language processing. And this would be basically when you want to understand human language, sorry. So if we think about it, a lot of the data that is out there is text-based. So things like customer complaints, social media, email, those are all unstructured text data sources. We can use text models and natural language processing on top of that in order for us to identify key insights from that data. So an application where I see this often being used is when businesses want to analyze their social media data. You can take that feed of social media data, build a text model, and look at things like what are my target audience speaking mostly about, what are key concepts or topics that they are talking about. And this can help drive business decisions. Within the call center space, when you phone your bank, usually they start off by letting you know that the call is being recorded. They can use that recording, transcribe that speech to text, and then use that for analysis to drive certain insights in the call center. So that's another application for natural language processing. Computer vision models, which is also a really exciting space, is basically when you give the machine or the computer the ability to identify objects or see content within an image or a video. So again, the amount of applications for this is endless. A big and popular one is around the self-driving cars. A self-driving car needs to have the ability to see. So they use computer vision algorithms together with sensors to see things like obstructions in the road, to see when the robot is red or road signs. So that's an application of it. We've also at SAS seen computer vision being used in the fashion industry, for example. So looking at things like identifying trends on the runway to use those types of insights from video clips and drive the planning process for planners and buyers in the retail space. So again, the possibilities are endless. But the idea of this diagram is just to share some of the fundamental building blocks that any AI or analytics professional would need to understand. And of course, you can get into any one of these. You can say that you just want to focus on the data, or you want to be a specialist in the data, you need to understand them all, of course, or specialize in one of the modeling types. It's completely up to you. So me, I have a personal preference. I love the natural language processing stuff, and I have a colleague that absolutely loves the machine learning and computer vision pieces. They all kind of work together, but they do have their nuances. So you can specialize, but in order to be successful in the field, you need to have an understanding of all of the components. Okay. If we think about the supply chain process, there are lots of different data touch points across the entire supply chain process. There's large amounts of data. Let me just quickly swap. There we go. So at SAS, this is how we see the omni-channel supply chain process. And across each of these different points, there's lots of data points. Using analytics and AI, the data sources can be leveraged to gain insight. Planning always. So we see that a lot of the use cases in the planning phase is around the forecasting. Organizations, especially when COVID hit, realized that they need to be more dynamic in their forecast. A lot of organizations are using machine learning driven forecast together with their traditional forecasting methods. They then combining this to come up with a general forecast. And these forecasts tend to be more accurate. So they're doing this in order to improve the overall accuracy of the forecast, which ultimately is done to do things like improve the stock ordering, delivery, reduce the rate of replenishment and waste. So forecasting is a great use case for analytics in the planning phase of the supply chain process. And getting the numbers right at the beginning is really important. Okay. Next, around sourcing. This could be sourcing materials from different suppliers, sourcing suppliers to make the different products. In my view, I think this is the part that has the most data touch points. So here you would have information about your different suppliers. You would have different product information, different sourcing channels, etc. So that's a bunch of different data, and it can be a lot to consume. Visualization would be a really great tool here, so that you could do things like build out reports um, on like a know your supplier report. Have a report where you're analyzing each of your suppliers and look at the different products that they provide to you, look at those key insights. Another application within the source process or the sourcing step could be using AI and analytics to do things like model the risk of your suppliers. So that's another one. Next is the make step within the supply chain process. This is where the actual product is being manufactured. If a company or an organization is actually making their product, most likely their equipment is a major asset for them. You can do things like use sensor technology together with AI to predict machine failure. So we have a few use cases where we've seen that done. You can also do things like root cause analysis during routine maintenance checks. And there's a lot of other applications as well with regards to maintenance. But the idea in the make step is to ultimately improve the manufacturing quality and reduce unplanned downtime as much as possible. Because when we're not producing, we are losing money, of course. So those things can be predicted using analytics as well. From a delivery perspective, here we're trying to get the product to our different DCs or stores. A lot of organizations are using various optimization techniques in order to do things like find the optimal delivery route to take. Similar to the make phase, your truck is also a major asset. So you can use, again, sensor technology and AI together to predict when certain parts are going to fail, or if your truck is going to need a maintenance check, or if there's going to be some sort of unplanned breakdown. Okay. From an engage perspective, this is where the marketing would start happening. You can think of this as using channel data together with customer data in order to find out what's the best way to engage with the customer across the entire relationship with the brand. So for an engagement perspective, you can do things like predict the likely channel that the customer is going to respond on, or do a channel analysis to say these segments of customers are most likely to respond on these channels. And this can help drive how you market to your customer. It can also drive how you would sell to the customer, of course. And then that takes us to the final step, which is the selling. Again, this is now you've taken that channel information and you've marketed the customer to the channel of their choice. You can do things like customer segmentation as well, where you're using analytics to segment your customer base and come up with unique campaigns for the different segments of customers. Within the selling phase, you can also do some propensity modeling. So you can use analytics to do things like determine the likelihood of a customer to buy one product versus another. And then you can use all of these insights to drive how you communicate with your customer. So if I have a model and I say Melissa's most likely to buy black headphones, and her preferred channel is email, then I'm going to market black earphones to Melissa on her preferred channel. So the idea is to improve the overall customer experience by offering your customer relevant products at the relevant time and through the relevant channel. So those are just a few of the use cases that can be applied across the omni-channel supply chain. There are way more, of course, but this is a dynamic process. It's dynamic and it's iterative, and you need to be agile in it. So at any moment, for example, when the looting happened in South Africa, forecasts will need to be readjusted. So you need to be able to do that on the fly, and that changes this entire process. So we find that organizations that have a strong data and analytics foundation, they are often more successful in weathering those types of changes in the process. Okay, I see we only have 4 minutes left, so I'm going to stop here and end off for any questions that might.
Thank you, Melissa. That was incredibly interesting. There's an awful lot of work that goes into this, and there's an awful lot of amount that you need to know. It's very, I would say strategic is not the right word. Yeah, it's very in depth. It's beyond my reckoning because it's too technical for me. So, do we have any questions? Everybody's shocked into silence. It certainly does sound like an incredible career to be in. You're kind of at the forefront of what's happening at the moment in terms of technological advancements and things like that. So are you seeing a lot more movement in that area at the moment, especially since the start of COVID? Technological advancements moving faster than before?
I think when COVID hit at the beginning, there was a reluctancy for organizations to take on analytics because obviously the priorities has changed. It's survival mode. But I think that as things have progressed, a lot of organizations have understood that analytics is actually the answer to that survival mode, that having that foundation in place helps, like I said at the end, make those transitions smoother, and when things hit, you are able to be more agile during those times. So for sure.
No, absolutely. Sure. So somebody had a question here. Why would you say some companies are reluctant to adopt these technologies?
I think it's mostly a change management thing. For a lot of organizations, it's we've been doing it this way. We do our forecast like this. We use Excels or whatever. And it's a change management process. And people need to understand you're not going to go from doing nothing to using computer vision the next day. It's just starting the journey. And starting with reports and doing basic analytics and then slowly starting to build on it. And I think the reluctancy is firstly the change management thing and the fact that organizations see it as this big change. It doesn't have to be that. It can be built out to your organization's needs and it can be slow and steady.
Nobody likes change, and I think that in any project, in any organization, anywhere, that's the biggest challenge. The biggest obstacle is the change, because nobody wants to do it. Unfortunately, I think the world we live in, we don't really have a choice. I'm just going to do one more question because otherwise we're going to be out of time. Melissa, have you seen a clear advantage for those companies that have adopted a clear digital strategy?
For sure. So we've seen a lot of companies that, and I can say from COVID times, we've had a hard hit. These companies that have these clear strategies in place, these clear digital analytics strategies in place, they tend to be more agile in these stormy type of environments. And also, at the end of the day, whenever I'm positioning AI as a platform or as a strategy for an organization, it's people's fear. The fear around change management is people think it's going to take over their jobs or it's going to replace them. But we as humans need to understand that we have so much more capabilities than a machine, and organizations that take on these digital strategies and these AI platforms, they allow the machines to do the mundane tasks so that we can free up human capabilities to be doing other things. So these organizations tend to be more innovative. They are developing more things because they have the time and the capacity to do that, because they're not doing mundane tasks and they're allowing machines to do that for them.
Which makes 100% sense. I mean, the humans are the ones that have the brain, the innovation, the creativity. And that's what we need to maximize on, if we can have machines doing all this type of work for us.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
Melissa, thank you so much. That was a really, really interesting presentation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It definitely helped me to understand it a lot more. Would you be able to sit at one of the tables for 10 minutes? And then if
Sure.
anybody has got some questions, they can pop into the lounge. And I'm sure they have, and chat with you. I'm
Sure.
sorry I can't take more questions. So thank you, Melissa. Appreciate your time and
Thank you for having me.
sharing. It's an absolute pleasure sharing more about what it is that you do, and sort of demystifying a little bit more. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Everybody else, either change sessions or pop out to visit Melissa in the lounge. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.